This episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by Jedley's award-winning children's book, The Great Maratini.
A very long time ago, there was a boy named Sam who liked to do his magic tricks, and he was quite the ham. He was called the Great Maratini, the best magician of his age, but his greatest feat took place far away from any stage. Every trick Sam tried to do would somehow come out wrong, but Sam just kept on going, and that's what made him strong. He was called the Great Maratini, the best magician of his age, but his greatest feat took place far away from any stage. One day as he traveled, he helped a stranger in need, and this was not a trick, oh no, but a magical good deed. He was called the Great Maratini, the best magician of his age, but his greatest feat took place far away from any stage. He was called the Great Maratini, the best magician of his age, but his greatest feat took place far away from any stage.
To get your autographed copy of the giant bilingual edition of The Great Maratini, please visit greatmaratini.com.
Reading with your kids.
Hey, come on in, have a seat and relax. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast and iTunes #1 kids and family podcast. Thanks to your great support. We have a wonderful guest on for you today, coming to us from Pawtucket in Rhode Island, a beautiful part of the world. She is the author of Puppy Pickup Day, the Little Labradoodle. Her name is April Cox. This episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by readingwithyourkids.com/dreams. readingwithyourkids.com/dreams. Hey, have you ever dreamed of having more time with your family? Having greater financial security, sharing your passion for books and literacy, maybe building an amazing home library? What about traveling the world or helping others reach their dreams? You know, thousands have discovered life-changing opportunities with Usborne Books and more. It's more than just a career. These people find a close network of friends who encourage them to reach for their dreams, and they cheer one another on when they achieve them. Now, whether you're looking for a career with a potential six-figure income, or you're just looking to add a few $100s a month to your family with just a few hours of work each week, Usborne Books and More has an exciting opportunity for you to make a difference in the lives of children all around the world. There's a world of possibilities awaiting you. Please visit readingwithyourkids.com/dreams. Join us on the line right now from one of the places I really love. I really love this little city. It's a really, really cool little place. It's called Pawtucket, Rhode Island, home for now of the Pawtucket Red Sox, of Boston Red Sox AAA minor league team. She is not a minor league writer at all. She is the author of Puppy Pickup Day, the Little Labradoodle. Please welcome to the show, April M Cox. April, how are you?
Thank you very much. I'm great, thanks. How are you?
Excellent. It's we're probably both melting here. It's super hot here in New England. In the last few days of summer.
Yes, I agree.
So tell us a little bit about Puppy Pickup Day.
So it started as a passion project for my grandkids, and they would climb up on my lap, and we would read stories together, and I kind of fell back in love with picture books. As a grandmother to 3 and one more on the way, it was one of my favorite ways to spend time with the grandkids. And so my little Labradoodle would jump up on my lap, and he would read with us. And I love to try to figure out inventive ways to try to get the kids away from screens. And you know, it's always TV, video games, or in front of an iPad doing something. And so we would make up stories. We would just use our imagination. And the little Labradoodle, my little mini Labradoodle Brady, was the target of a lot of inventive stories that we would come up with together. So that's kind of how the Little Labradoodle series was born in my brain. And I started putting it down on paper. And just kind of as a legacy project, I wanted to leave those stories behind. And they star my grandkids and my dogs, and it's fun, it's exciting, it's adventurous. It's what I wanted to provide them in a children's book, but also has underlying themes of kindness and friendship and learning that you're special no matter what your size or what your abilities are. So that was important lessons that I wanted to put in a book, not in an overt way that would make kids not want to read it. So it was important to me to do that. And then as time, circumstances have it, my corporate position was eliminated at a major corporation here in New England. And so I kind of took it as a sign. Okay, this is, I'm ready to publish this book. I'm ready to I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I've had 30 years in the corporate world. So I thought it's time for me to launch this as a business and really give it my all and see if I can make this work.
So cool. And there's so much that you just said that I want to unpack a little bit. First off, I love that as a grandmother, one of the ways you choose to spend time with your grandkids is reading with them. And, we call the show the Reading with Your Kids podcast. And when I'm talking about kids, when I'm talking about your kids, I'm talking about all the kids in your life that are special to you, whether you're an aunt or an uncle or a grandmother or grandfather, obviously mother and father, or just, someone that's a concerned friend of the family. Sitting down and reading with kids, it's so important, but it's also so valuable, and it is such a wonderful way for people of different generations to start building relationships.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And there is nothing like the feeling of picking up your little child and having them melt into your lap and getting that opportunity to cuddle while you're rocking in a chair or laying down together reading a bedtime story. There's just nothing like the bonding that happens over a book, especially a beautiful children's book.
You're really right. Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time. We don't have grandkids. Hopefully at some point soon. That sounds like the little Labradoodle invading here. But we don't have grandkids, and my kids are in their 20s right now. But I do remember that feeling that you were talking about of having the kid just kind of melt into your lap or into your arms as you're reading that story. It's just this statement where the child just kind of lets go, and it's like, I feel safe here with this person. And it's really hard to describe what a wonderful feeling that is.
Yes, and it's fun because it's an adventure that you go on together. And, some of the books that we would read, I tried to take the best of what my grandkids loved the most. For example, they loved finding little surprises in the book. Mm-hmm. A little animal peeking out from behind something, or a little bird in a tree. They would pick out that I would never see them. They're the ones that have this amazing way of finding little surprises that we adults miss. Mm-hmm. So I made sure to put a lot of that in the book. And my granddaughter, even at the age of 2, just loves it. And it's been, tried and tested on a number of beta readers, and we have had rave reviews. And I think a good part of that is not just because, the story is something that we came up with and has, evolved quite a bit over time with feedback. But we have partnered with an illustrator who's a former Disney illustrator. Mm-hmm. And the way that he has translated these characters is just amazing. And they're beautiful. They're colorful. if you think of Pound Puppies or you think of 101 Dalmatians, you could put this right next to the two of those, and it would fit right in as if it was, a Disney ready for TV series.
You're right. As I was looking and previewing the book, I'm looking at it and I'm like, there's something about these illustrations that feel, they're beautiful, they're colorful, but there's a comfort. That's the first thing that I kind of felt. I was like, I'm familiar with this. I don't recognize the name of the illustrator, but this, and so that makes perfect sense. It does. It has that Disney feel to it, and that's a beautiful, beautiful style of illustration.
Yeah, Len Smith has worked on Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He created Toontown, so whenever we see Toontown in various different places, that was his design. He's also created characters for Bonkers and Tailspin, and the New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. So I think our little Labradoodles and our little characters are in really good company, and I'm excited to have partnered with such an amazing illustrator.
Yeah. One of the other things you touched on was just that whole idea of creating stories together as a family. Yes. And even if you don't have an intention of publishing the books, just that exercise of either a parent and child or grandparent and child sitting down and coming up with stories and sharing stories from our youth and letting our kids know how we grew up and asking them what they would do in that situations and then letting them share with us their point of view in the world. It is such a great way to bond and communicate with kids.
And it's funny because when I go over to babysit or spend time with my grandkids, they know that that's one of the things we get to do. We get to pretend together. We get to have fun together. And it started by watching, movies that they loved or reading books that they loved. And then we would pretend we were part of, let's have an adventure and let's, like we would I read a book, Going on a Lion Hunt. So then, of course, I closed the book and said, why don't we go on a lion hunt? And then, what's going on, Isabella? What do I see over there? And she would, yell out what she saw. And now we have to swim. And where do you see anything? And she would yell, oh, I see an alligator. So we would just pretend and we would have so much fun. And then I would go over to visit and they would have new stories to tell me. Mm-hmm. Isabella says she wants to be an astronaut when she grows up. So she has this story she's been telling me about going to the moon, and she even drew me a picture of the aliens she's going to meet when she gets there. So, these are the ways some of these stories come together. So I asked her, can the little Labradoodle come too? And she said, oh, yes, absolutely. So, of course, we might have a little Labradoodle goes to the moon kind of book awesome. In the works.
You make a great point, and I think sometimes parenting, it's so hard. Parents are so stressed. Work is hard, the bills are hard. We have to save for the college, and then on top of that, I think a lot of parents feel like they have to compete with the screens. Oh, the screen is so much more entertaining. The kids would rather watch TV. They'd rather sit down and play with the iPad or play with the computer, play with my phone, because that is so much more colorful. That's so much more entertaining, so much more interesting. But the reality is, you are so much more entertaining to your kids. They want to spend time with you much more than they want to spend time on a screen.
Right, absolutely. And they love the play that if you can get them out of the screen and using their imagination, the screen has all these different stimulations that are happening, and they get so used to that stimulation of being in front of a screen that I think sometimes it's hard to teach kids that they need to get out of that. When my kids were younger, free play they didn't have the screen time that kids today have. So there was a lot of free play, a lot of imagination going on, and I just didn't see that in my grandkids. early on. So I do my best to try to introduce that to them and make sure that they have opportunities to tap into that imagination. And that's why I say I want to create programs that do that with kids so that they understand how to use their imagination and tell the stories that each one of them has inside as well.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful, beautiful goal. And one of the other things you talked about is your own self and your own entrepreneurial spirit. And what started off as just some beautiful family time with your grandkids is evolving into a business.
Right. Yes, and like I said, it was, I've always kind of had this entrepreneurial spirit, but as parents, I was a mother of 4, and the primary breadwinner for the family, and I had, my husband was Mr. Mom before Mr. Mom was cool. So 30 years together, we've been married, and, you know, the kids have grown and gone. But I've always had this entrepreneurial spirit, but so many excuses got in the way. You know, oh, can't take that risk, don't have the money, what are we going to do about health insurance? All those things come up. I'm at a season in my life now where those excuses aren't there anymore, and spent, you know, like I said, 30 years in consulting and in IT and working, creating, you know, great corporations and projects and programs for a huge corporation, and always said, I could do this for myself. I know I could do it. I want to be successful, and I want to do it. And now was the time. I got the opportunity to do that. And, you know, part of me is also just looking at the reality of what are the biggest risks that could come from doing this. And so I talked with my husband, and I said, you know, our housing is just too expensive. We lived in Barrington, Rhode Island, which is absolutely beautiful, right near the water. And our housing expenses were too much. So with his blessing, and I thank him for it, we sold the house, moved into a mobile home park in Pawtucket, and we've cut our expenses by 75% because we're just all in on, you know, trying to make this work and be able to not have to worry about putting food on the table while I'm trying to make my business work.
I so much of that I love, the being together for 30 years and supporting each other, supporting each other's dreams, and it really is that in itself is a beautiful story.
Thank you. I'm very fortunate. My husband has been the rock. Like I said, he held the family together and was the Mr. Mom when that was nothing but ridicule. And he loves taking care of the grandkids. He's just as involved with them as I am. And now it might be time for, you know, me to focus on my entrepreneurial aspect of things and him to support in other ways. So it's just a new season for us, and I'm really excited and really scared, and, you know, my stomach is a little queasy thinking about all of this. And, you know, as we've released the ebook, we had, over the Labor Day weekend, we had almost 500 downloads, which was amazing.
Wow.
I did lots of communication through social media and have been trying to build a following for this, but I think it goes to show how people are really love and identify with these characters that Len has created.
That's amazing. What a wonderful kickoff to your book.
Yes, unfortunately, the Kickstarter that we set up to try to get the print copies going has not been doing so great. So we'll be finishing, I think it ends in a few days. We're only about 10% funded. So I think we'll have to regroup a little bit and maybe, you know, kick it off again using a different format. I think part of it, from, you know, my perspective, lessons learned for other authors, is that it was a bit rushed. I would have liked to have started a Kickstarter after launching and getting 500 downloads on the ebook, you know,
right,
before moving forward and asking for help for the print copy. So, lessons learned, we learn a little bit more with each of these things that we try. And the best thing to do is fail fast and then move on from there. So I'm excited to try to get this book into print. At the very least, it'll be on Amazon on demand, print on demand. Mm-hmm. And I'm also taking a look at some proofs for the hard copy book. I think it's absolutely beautiful for hard copy because I think the beautiful colors, and I think it's going to be a keepsake book that kids are going to want to keep around. And if they're anything like my kids and my grandkids, soft copies don't hang around very well. They get ripped easily, they get ruined and bent easily. So that's the big push for me is trying to get that funding to move us forward with the hard copy books. And I've also got a plush with Douglas plush. That is absolutely beautiful Labradoodle, looks almost identical to our character. So we're trying to see if we can't get that customized so that we have a nice gift set for the holiday season.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love this. I love that you faced adversity, and unlike so many people who just kind of cave in and give up, you said, hey, we got to make something different here. This is the hand that we've been dealt with. We need to move forward, and you move forward together as a family, and reached out to the greater community and your building community. And I love the dream. I love the spirit. We're of similar age. I think there's so many people in our age that are thinking, nah, it's time to stop, time to sit down, put the feet up, and let others live. And people ask me, when are you going to retire? And it's like, I'm not going to retire. I love what I'm doing.
Yeah, I absolutely love it too, and I'm waiting for the. I'm a little bit of a silly Nana, my grandkids call me, so we just got the mascot costume in, and I can definitely see myself wearing the mascot costume and dancing with the little ones in a Labradoodle costume, and then and doing some readings and things like that. So I think it's going to be fun, and I'm really looking forward to this season, and I completely identify with what you said. There are so many, and I was feeling the same way. I was feeling like, I've been in this same job, same career for a very long time. You start to lose passion for what you do, and I absolutely loved what I was doing for my work for a very long time. But you get to a point where as you age, things, priorities change. I wanted to spend more time with my family. And it's always about, my dogs and my kids and my grandkids, and now I can't revolve any more around them with this new business venture, because it really does all tie all the things that I love most and that I'm most passionate about together. And like I said, helping kids. If you don't mind, I'd just like to talk about at the end of last year, before school was closing, we had a teacher contact me about the coloring books that I was creating for Labradoodle. They were Labradoodle coloring books, and she wanted to use them in her classroom for the last week of school. And I said, that's perfectly fine with me. I'd love it if you did that, but I think I have a better idea. What about if those third graders had an opportunity to review a new book that's coming out? I had the text, I had storyboards, and how about if we teach them a little bit about what it takes to get a book put together? I'd love their feedback on the story. I'd love them to see what a storyboard looks like and how a story comes together. And she loved the idea, and she and 2 other third grade classrooms used that for the last week of school, and then they had the kids write letters to us. And it was amazing. It was just amazing. And it just ignited a fire that, this is how we get kids starting to use their own imagination and learn how to tell their own stories. Mm-hmm. And yes, the curriculum might be different in 3rd grade than it is in 8th grade, but there's more we can do to help kids learn about this great area of publishing and of storytelling and of using their imaginations.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know people are going to want to know more about the Little Labradoodle and about you. So where should they go online to connect with you?
They can go to www.thelittlelabradoodle.com, and there's links to Facebook and Instagram and Twitter on there as well. And I would love, there's also some, free resources like coloring pages and coloring books. So I love to hear from anyone who's interested and would love to engage further with your readers. Thank you.
That sounds great. Our guest today has been the author of Puppy Pickup Day, The Little Labradoodle, April M Cox. Thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you for having me. Take care.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be J. Renee Heimerman. She's going to be here. I hope you're going to be here with us, too. Hey, we want to thank April Cox for joining us today. And, of course, we want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. And thank you so much for taking the time to read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.